Let's start with a completely counterintuitive statistic from recent HubSpot data.
Okay, let's hear.
So 52% of marketers say AI makes content easier to create but somehow less effective. You'd assume faster content generation means better results, but in 2026, we're seeing the exact opposite.
Yeah, that paradox is really the foundation for our deep dive today. We're looking at a fascinating stack of sources from HubSpot analytics to, insights from Jessica Apotheker and Rory Sutherland.
And our mission today is tracking how traditional marketing fundamentals have just slammed into our AI-saturated reality and figuring out what actually drives results now, plus giving you a concrete checklist for your small business.
Exactly.
So let's unpack this. If you look at the old playbook, Philip Kotler's 4 Ps or Brian Tracy pushing the unique selling proposition.
Right, the USP.
Right. The whole goal was finding a competitive edge and broadcasting it. But if AI is doing the broadcasting for literally everyone, that edge just totally vanishes.
It does. And Jessica Apotheker actually calls this the great equalization. Because generative AI is trained on existing data,
Yeah.
right? So it naturally gravitates toward the average. When every single business relies on the same tools to write copy or design campaigns, divergence just disappears. True innovation gets stifled because the tech is designed to produce what is, well, mathematically predictable.
Wow. I mean, it really feels like mandatory school uniforms for businesses.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, like if every company is wearing the same perfectly polished, emoji-filled, grammatically flawless AI outfit, nobody stands out. You just blur into the background. So how do we break out of that uniform?
Well, you have to lean into what AI lacks, which is human psychology and bold positioning. Rory Sutherland's research on psychological moonshots illustrates this beautifully.
Psychological moonshots.
Yeah, he argues that changing how a product is perceived is often much cheaper and vastly more effective than changing the actual product itself.
Oh, I love his examples for this, like rebranding basic plastic car seats as vegan leather.
Yes, the physical material didn't change at all, right?
Not one bit. But the perceived value skyrocketed simply by tapping into the buyer's identity.
Or consider the Uber map. Showing a little car crawling across a screen didn't make the driver arrive any faster.
No, it just gave you something to look at.
Exactly, it just removed the psychological anxiety of waiting. And this psychological angle feeds directly into Debbie Millman's concept of modern branding.
Right, where she points out a shift toward a bottom-up model.
Yeah, where consumers buy from companies that reflect their own shared beliefs.
Which completely explains the logic behind Nike's Colin Kaepernick campaign a few years back. Because regardless of anyone's personal politics, from a purely marketing standpoint, that campaign forced consumers to make a choice based on shared values rather than just, the art support of a shoe.
Impartially speaking, yeah, it polarized people intentionally to create loyalty. It built a tribe.
A tribe, right. Which reminds me of Simon Scoop talking about finding your 1,000 true fans. Does this mean businesses should stop shouting about product features entirely?
Well, it's no longer about shouting your features to the widest possible audience. It's really about signaling your values to a dedicated core. Features only matter if they actually serve that community connection.
Okay, so how do we actually apply this today? Like, if I'm running a small business, I can't just slap a polarizing billboard up and hope for the best. I need to know my digital presence is actually converting the traffic I do get.
Right, and that starts with our 2026 Small Business Checklist. First up is what HubSpot calls the 5-second test.
Because buyer patience has completely evaporated, right?
Completely. If someone lands on your site and can't instantly figure out what you do and who you serve within 5 seconds, they just bounce. Clarity has to beat cleverness every single time.
Which means I probably shouldn't let AI write my homepage headline if it's just going to generate flowery corporate jargon.
Exactly. And that brings in Apotheker's human edit rule.
Use AI for the structure.
Yes, let it do the heavy lifting of outlining or organizing, but you have to protect your right-brain creatives. You absolutely need a human to inject the actual brand voice so you don't sound like a generic influencer.
That makes a lot of sense. And the way you distribute that voice matters too, right? Balancing short-form reach with long-form trust.
Right. HubSpot and Alex Hormozy both advocate for using short videos with curiosity-driven headlines just to grab attention. But, attention isn't loyalty.
You have to funnel them somewhere. Short-form is just the handshake. The long-form content, like a podcast or a nuanced email newsletter, is where you actually build the relationship with those 1,000 true fans.
Spot on. And the final piece of the 2026 framework is closing your feedback loops, which HubSpot calls launch, learn, fix.
Shortening the feedback loop so we can't rely on a rigid monthly plan anymore.
Not at all. The data indicates you need to be analyzing your metrics weekly. Like if an ad drops on Tuesday, it isn't resonating, adjust it by Wednesday. Speed of iteration is your new competitive advantage.
So basically, AI gives you the speed to iterate, but human psychology provides the actual connection that makes people care.
That synthesis is really where the magic happens. I mean, we've known for a long time that neuromarketing uses subtle visual primers.
Oh, like the classic watch advertisement, where the hands are almost always set to 10.10.
Yes, because it mimics a subconscious smile, making the viewer feel more positively about the watch.
That is so wild to think about. And here's where it gets really interesting to me. If human marketers figured out the 10.10 smile trick decades ago, how long until AI starts designing hidden psychological nudges in our digital feeds that we can't even perceive?
Wow, that is a fascinating thought.
Definitely something for you to think about next time you hit buy. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.